What does it mean that God did it? Thinking about religion will explore this statement and will relate it to the real world. Well, the term God did it always comes around when there's something that we don't know. For instance, we don't know how the world came into being. We don't know how the universe started, so we may say, God must have done it. That provides us with an explanation, and then we know how and why it happened. But wait a minute, what does God did it mean? Let's go explore. First of all, we need an example, and rain is a pretty good example. Rain is much more easy to understand than the beginning of the universe, so we can see what we learn by adding God to our explanations of rain. Now, we can compare these two statements. God makes it rain, and it rains. Both of them clearly states that it rained, but the first one seems to have an explanation, whereas the other one doesn't. But does it really now? We need to take a different set of statements about rain. We can take the first statement again, it rains, simply stating that it rains, and then we have two statements that both have explanations to why and how it rains. The first one states that hatches are opened in the heavens and the waters from above come down. So we have a mechanism whereby the rain happens. And that mechanism is tied up to certain potential observations. If we may observe these hatches, if we may observe something they're attached to, and if we can observe the water that is above whatever those hatches are attached to, then we may support this explanation. Then we have a third explanation. Evaporated water in the atmosphere is condensed at low temperatures, turns into drops, and the drops fall down. Now, the third explanation requires, of course, that we may observe such things as evaporated water, that we may observe temperature differences, and that we may observe that under these low temperatures, the evaporated water actually turns into drops, and that these drops do fall down, pulled down by some force. So let's go take a look at that. Now we add God to all three explanations. And on the left hand, we have the explanations with God, and on the right hand, we have the explanations without God. And let's see if God is indeed an explanation. Or we could say, God makes it rain and it rains is different from each other. We could also do something different. We could take each pair of statements and see how they differ from each other. And when we look at these two, they do seem both to be quite thin compared to all the others. They do not seem to really say much about what is going on, what is happening, what is causing it to rain. These two, on the other hand, are simply wrong. There are no hatches. There is no sky that these hatches can be attached to. And there are no waters above. There is evaporated water in the atmosphere, but there is no reservoir of water that can be released by opening any hatches. And we can say that these two are both right. They do not differ in what they say about what happens to the water, but they differ only in the term God and the active sense of some of the verbs in the statement to the left. So, God did it. What does that really mean? What does it really tell us? Well, my position would be that it tells us nothing. That we can only know about a phenomenon in the world when we learn how and why it works. When we learn in day-to-day practice with other people, or in the special case of human practice that we call scientific research. It is through those means that we understand what is happening. When we don't know something, it doesn't matter if we say that God did it. If we don't know, then we don't know. Thank you for listening.